Very good morning to all of you, my friends. Welcome back after a long break. So I hope you guys are thorough with the chapters, what I have discussed till date. And I assume that you were able to solve all the questions of study material plus past MTPs, RTPs. So the chapters what we discussed till now are comparatively much more easier as compared to the chapters what we'll be discussing now and onwards. So let's start with the next part of the syllabus. We call it as methods of costing. In this, today we'll be starting with process costing. So good morning, everyone. So today we will be starting with process costing, a very important chapter from examination point of view. In every attempt, you will find a question on process costing. So do pay attention. Whatever the doubts you have, you guys can post your doubts freely. And again, it's a easy chapter, but again, if you are thorough with the concepts, then you'll be able to solve it very easily. So let's start with this chapter, process costing. When talking about this chapter, process costing, it's a method of costing. It's a method of costing used by those companies wherein the raw material has to pass through two or more than two processes before being converted into final product. I repeat again, when talking about this chapter, process costing, it's a method of costing used by those companies or manufacturing concern wherein the raw material has to pass through two or more than two processes before being converted into final product. So, it's a method of costing So what is process costing? It's a method of costing used by those companies or manufacturing concern wherein the raw material has to pass through two or more than two processes before being converted into final product. So how this mechanism works, let's say I have raw material in my hands. We can call it as inputs also. The raw material is transferred to the next process. Sorry, the raw material is introduced in process first. So inputs are introduced in process first. Now, once the process first gets over, the output of process first will be transferred to the next process. Similarly, when the process second gets over, the output of process second will be transferred to the next process. Let's say there is one more process, process third. Assuming this is the last process, so the output of process third will be what? My finished goods. So herein what we can see is that raw material is introduced in process first, and once the process first gets over, the output of process first is transferred to process second. So basically the input of process second will be what? The output of process first. Similarly, once the process second gets over, the output will be transferred to the next process, assuming there are three processes only. So once the process third gets over, the output of process third will be what? My finished goods. So this is how this mechanism works. So for the students who have joined bit late, we have started with process costing. It's a method of costing used by those companies or manufacturing concern wherein the raw material has to pass through two or more than two process before being converted into final product. I request you guys to copy this explanation. Again, I repeat, when talking about the concepts part, do note it down. As far as the questions is concerned, you can take the screenshot, but yes, the concepts part, I request you guys to copy it, please. Good morning, Geeta. Good morning, Pranav. So let's proceed further. Let me discuss this concept with the help of a practical example wherein, let's say, I'm the manufacturer of potato chips from potatoes. I'm the manufacturer of potato chips from potatoes. So my raw material will be what? This will be my raw material. This will be my input. This will be my raw material. So let's say this raw material is introduced in process first, wherein the first process starts from sorting, grading, and cleaning of potatoes. The first process starts from sorting, grading, and cleaning of potatoes. Now, once the process first gets over, the output of this process is transferred to the next process, wherein we can say the next process is, let's say, the preparation of potato chips from potatoes. Once the potato chips are ready, let's say the third process comes into picture, wherein adding flavors and preservatives. Once the process third gets over, The final process wherein we do packing and finishing of potato chips. Packing and finishing. And once this process gets over, our final product is ready. That is a packet of potato chips. So here I'm just taking a very basic example, not any technical product or any, wherein various kinds of technical processes are involved. I'm just taking a very basic example wherein my raw material is potatoes. So this is introduced in process first, wherein we do sorting and grading and cleaning of potatoes. Once the process first gets over, the second process starts, wherein we do convert potato into potato chips. Once the potato chips are ready, the output of this process is transferred to the next process, wherein we add flavors and preservatives. Once this process gets over, the output of this process is transferred to the next process, process 4, wherein we do packing and finishing job. And once this packing and finishing gets over, our final product is ready. Our final product, that is my packet of potato chips, is ready. So herein, in this industry, we can say we can use process costing. Now, very important, guys. See, there are separate processes involved. So since each process is unique and different, therefore, a separate process account is to be prepared for every process to record the costs that are pertaining to a process. I repeat again, since each process is unique, therefore, a separate process account. Since each process is unique, therefore, a separate process account is to be prepared for every process to record the cost pertaining to that process. हर एक प्रोसेस यूनिक है, डिफरेंट है. सो दैट्स व्हाई उस पर्टिकुलर प्रोसेस की जो भी कॉस्ट है उसको रिकॉर्ड करने के लिए हम लोगों को क्या करना पड़ेगा, बेसिकली हर प्रोसेस का एक सेपरेट प्रोसेस अकाउंट प्रिपेयर करना पड़ेगा. So this is how this mechanism works. Now the question is how to prepare process account, that we'll be discussing. In the meanwhile, I request you guys to copy this explanation, please. Anyone having any doubts or queries? Now the question is how to prepare process account. How to record the costs that are related to a process. Very simple, guys. Let's say this is process first account. The column will be units and amount. Similarly, here also, it's units and amount. The first thing what we will write, this is the debit side, this is the credit side, particulars, and first and the foremost thing what we will write is the inputs, or we can say the material. Thereafter, all the conversion cost, be it labor, be it all the expenses. Be it labor, be it all the expenses. Now, a few more points. If any normal loss is there, we'll record on the credit side. Any abnormal loss is there, we'll record on the credit side. And if any abnormal gain. So either there will be an abnormal loss or abnormal gain. Will record. So if any abnormal gain is there or abnormal loss is there, we'll record it accordingly. And thereafter, we'll write the final output that is transferred to the next process by process second. So when talking about the basic format, it will be input, all the conversion cost, thereafter the normal loss and the output. If there is abnormal loss or abnormal gain in the question, abnormal loss will be recorded on the credit side and abnormal gain will be recorded on the debit side. Now, similarly, we will prepare the process second account and so on. Just in the same way, we prepared the process first account, but the key is here the input will be what? The output that is received from process first. So to process first, if any additional material is introduced, then to material and to labor and other costs. If any abnormal gain is there, then abnormal gain. If any normal loss is there, then by normal loss, by abnormal loss. And finally, assuming there are only two processes, so the output is basically my finished stock. So it will be transferred to finished stock. Assuming there are only two processes, so this is my final process, so output will be transferred to the finished stock. So herein two things are different. First thing is the input that are received from process first, and second thing is that the output will be transferred either to the finished stock or to the next process. So this is how the process account is to be prepared. I repeat again, on debit side, all the costs that are incurred in that process will be recorded. And on the credit side, the units transferred plus if any normal loss or abnormal loss is there, then we will record. I request you guys to copy this explanation, please. Manish sir, admin sir, there is a girl named Mangla. She's not been able to join over Zoom, so can you please guide her? Pardon, sir? Huh? So do you want me to send any sort of, do you want me to instruct her anything? Or, okay, fine. No problem. Okay. Link is working fine? Okay. I'll update you on this, Pranav. Give me some time. Once I'm discussing abnormal gain, I'll be discussing this part in detail. Don't worry. I request you guys to copy this explanation. So this is the presentation. I have shared it also. So process costing, it's a method of costing used in industries wherein the material has to pass through two or more than two process before being converted into final product. A separate process account for each process is open and all the expenditures pertaining to a process is charged to process account. So this is how this mechanism works, wherein the input or raw material is transferred to introduced in process first. And once the process first gets over, the output of process first is transferred to the next process. Similarly, once the process second gets over, the output will be what my finished stock, assuming there are only two processes involved. Thereafter, the basic format, wherein I have mentioned the inputs, labors, other expenses, abnormal gain, if any, abnormal loss, if any, thereafter the normal loss and the output. Similarly, we'll prepare the process second account also. So this is what we have discussed till now. Now, let's proceed further. Now let's start with the very basic question: how to prepare a basic process account when there is no normal loss, and abnormal gain given in the question. The question is there in the study material also, else you can refer my notes also. So let's start with example number 1, basic. The same question is there in the study material also and in my material, so you can refer, either study material or my notes. So let's start with example number 1, that is the basic question. So from the following data, I request you guys to please open your study material. So example number 1, basic. From the following data, prepare process account indicating the cost of each process and the total cost. The total units that passed through each processes were 240 for the period. Now the information is given in the question as regards material, labor, and other expenses. Further, the additional information is given that indirect expenses amounts to rupees 85,000 may be apportioned on the basis of wages. Further, there is no opening and closing stock. So let's start with this example. Example number 1. Give me a minute. So let's start with example number 1. Now see, we have made an inputs of 240 units and the output is what, my 240 units. So we can prepare the per unit column or not, it's up to us, because there is no change in number of units. So here we have made an inputs of 240 units and the output is also 240 units. So no need to prepare the unit column. So better we will prepare the per unit column, that is what is the per unit cost. So let's start. So total 240 units were introduced and the material cost is 1,50,000. And the total number of units are 240. So we'll calculate the cost per unit. That will be 625. Similarly, the labor cost 80,000. So it will be 333.33. Further, my other expenses are 26,000. So this will be 108.33. Now, indirect expenses are given, that is 85,000. It is to be distributed in the ratio of direct wages. It is to be distributed in the ratio of direct wages. So it will be 8, 20, and 6. So this will be for process first, it will be 20,000. For process second, it will be 50,000. And for process third, it will be 15,000. So two indirect expenses. This will be how much? 20,000. And 20,000 divided by 240, it will be 83.33. So this is all what about on the debit side. So output is transferred to the next process, process second. So 1,50,000, 80,000, 26,000, and 20,000. That is total is 2,76,000. And this is 1150. So this is all what about process first. Medha, please check 8 is to 20 is to 6 is what? The basically the wages that are paid. See, 80,000, 2 lakh, and 60,000. I hope this part is clear to all. Anyone having any doubts till now? Anyone with any doubts or queries? So now let's start with the next process, process second. For process second, the input will be what? The inputs that are received from process first. So we'll write to process first. So this will be 1150 and 2,76,000. Now let's record the cost of process second. That is material, labor, other expenses, and indirect expenses. Material, it is 50,000, labor, it is 2 lakh, and other expenses are 72,000. 50,000, 2 lakh, 72,000, and 50,000. So let's divide each and every item by 240. So this will be 208.33. This will be 833.33. This will be 300. The output will be transferred to the next process, that is process third. This will be 6,48,000. This will be 2,700. So this is all what about process second. Now let's start with the process third account. Again, the input will be what the inputs received from process second. So to process second, 2,700 and 6,48,000. Thereafter, we will record all the cost of that process third, that is material, labor, and other expenses. Apart from this, the indirect expenses also. Wherein material, it is 20,000, 60,000, 25,000. Last is 15,000. So this will be 83.33. This will be 250. So buy finished stock, that is 7,68,000. And this will be 3,200. So this is how the process account are to be prepared. Again, these types of question examiner generally don't ask, but just for an overall idea and briefing, I have discussed this question. No need to copy. Everything is there in the study material. In the meanwhile, those who have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. So I hope this part is clear to all. Anyone having any doubts or queries? Yes, everything is divided by 240. Everything is divided by 240, 240, Mustafa. I'll be discussing this part. Don't worry, it's the very basic question. Here and thereafter, we'll be discussing what is normal loss, what is abnormal loss, what is abnormal gain, the treatment for the same. So, all these points we'll be discussing today. Kuldeep, don't worry. Anyone else with any doubts or queries? There are no units of labor and expenses. It's basically the per unit of this is what these are not the units, this is the per unit cost. And apart from this, when talking about units, basically units is of the material only, not for the labor and expenses. Pujita, anyone else with any doubts or queries? So now we are done with the basic part. So let's start with 1 second. Yes, don't worry, Mustafa. I assure you, you'll find it very easy and very simple. So do pay attention. Again, focus on the concepts. I'll be discussing each and every point in detail. So don't worry. So let's proceed further. So let's start with the next part, that is normal loss. Can anyone tell me what is normal loss? Can anyone tell me what is normal loss? We generally use this term in our daily life also. What is normal loss? Yes, waiting for your opinion. Loss which is expected to occur. Very good, Hina. Shamli, loss which cannot be avoided. Pujita, the amount of loss which can be avoided. Pujita, incorrect. Pranav, sir, loss which is expected to incur in the manufacturing process. I've got answers from many. Loss arising due to production process. Loss which occur during the course of business. We can see in loss of business. No, this is incorrect, Aditya. When in when talking about the manufacturing part, we are talking normal loss from the perspective of manufacturer. Very good, Linga. Loss in operations. Jaya. Anyways, so let's start. When talking about loss, see, due to the nature of product or production process, the loss that is bound to happen, which can't be avoided, is normal loss. I repeat again, due to the nature of the product or production process, वो loss जो होना ही है, we can't avoid it. That is normal loss. So when talking about meaning of normal loss, due to the nature of product or production process, the loss that is bound to happen the loss that is bound to happen because of the nature of the product or production process, वो loss जो होना ही है, that is what we call as normal loss. So we can say it can't be avoided. So basically this is due to the nature of the product or production process, the loss that is bound to happen is what? Normal loss. It is unavoidable, or we can say it is inherent in nature. ये लॉस होना ही है. अगर आप कोई प्रोडक्ट प्रोसेस करेंगे तो ये लॉस होना ही है. So we can say it can be predicted by management in advance. The normal loss can be predicted by management in advance. Let's say I'm into business of manufacturing potato chips from potatoes. I'm into business of manufacturing potato chips from potatoes. Now I procure these potatoes directly from farm. I procure these potatoes directly from farm. So from farm, it is loaded in the vehicle, and once the vehicle reaches my premise, it is again unloaded and put into process first. Now see, due to the nature of product that is potatoes, क्या होता है कि loading होता है, unloading होता है. So during this process, कुछ percent potatoes damage होते हैं. We can't avoid it because this is the nature of the raw material. So during the course of loading, unloading, certain percentage of potatoes are damaged or spoiled. We can't avoid it. So this is what our normal loss. Another example, let's say I am into business of processing of crude oil. I convert crude oil into petrol, diesel, gasoline, CNG. Now, during the process of conversion or during the process of processing, certain percentage of crude oil is evaporated. Certain percentage of crude oil is evaporated. We can't avoid it. So this is what we call as normal loss. Another example, let's say I'm the manufacturer of shirt. Now, I need 2 meters to manufacture a shirt. Now, while cutting the shirt or while giving the shape to the shirt, certain percentage of fabric we have to scrap. हम लोगों को certain percentage of fabric अलग करना पड़ता है. We call it as normal loss. Another example, let's say I'm the manufacturer of wooden furniture. Now during cutting and pasting कुछ wood जो है हमारा खराब होता ही है. We can't avoid it. हम लोगों को उसको निकाल के अलग करना ही पड़ता है. So that is what we call as normal loss. So normal loss due to the nature of the product or production process, वो loss जो होना ही है. शर्ट्स बना रहे हैं, कुछ परसेंटेज फैब्रिक खराब होना ही है. That is normal loss. If we are processing crude oil, certain percentages will be evaporated. We can't avoid it. That is normal loss. So we can say the example of normal loss can be certain percentage of crude oil is evaporated during process. Therefore, it is certain percentage of crude oil is evaporated during processing. So that is normal loss. I hope this part is clear to all. I hope this part is clear to all. Nosheen, the loss that is expected. Very good, Chatra. So the loss that is bound to happen, it is inherent in nature, and again, we can't avoid it. It can be predicted by management in advance, is what we call as normal loss. So the basic example, during the course of loading and unloading of potatoes, certain percentage of potatoes are damaged and scrapped. So that is normal loss because we can't avoid it. It's the nature of the product or production process. Now, when talking about the treatment of normal loss, what to do with normal loss? नॉर्मल लॉस का ट्रीटमेंट क्या होगा? So the value of value, or we can say the cost is the correct word, is absorbed by good units. So the value, or we can say the cost of normal loss is absorbed by good units, or we can say the balance units again. In simple terms, we can say due to normal loss the product cost is inflated. So, in short, I'm just writing this as an explanation. When talking about the treatment, the value, or we can say the cost of normal loss is absorbed by good units or balance units. Further, if any scrap value is realized on sale of normal loss, then it will be deducted from the process cost to calculate the cost of the process. So, वो जो कुछ potatoes खराब हुए, अगर हमने उसको market में sell किया, and we are getting something in return, so that amount will be deducted from the process cost. So, any amount realized on sale of normal loss will be deducted from the process cost to calculate the cost of. So any amount realized on sale of normal loss will be deducted from the process cost to calculate the cost of the process, or we can say the cost per unit of the process. So when talking about the treatment, value oblique cost of the normal loss is absorbed by good units or balance units. Due to normal loss, the product cost is inflated. Any amount realized on sale of normal loss will be deducted from the process cost to calculate the cost per unit of the process. I hope this part is clear. I'll be discussing this with the help of an example also. So I request you guys to copy this explanation. Thereafter, we'll discuss some basic example how to deal with normal loss. So please copy the explanation. I hope you guys are thorough with the concepts. I request you guys to copy the explanation, please. Now, let me discuss this concept with the help of an example also. One second. Let's say the cost of my process is, let's say, 2 lakh rupees. Or we can say, let's keep it 1,80,000. 1 second. Let me discuss this with the help of an example, Linga. Let's say my process cost is 1,80,000. Now, my inputs are, let's say, 10,000 units. My inputs is 10,000 units. Now, I repeat again, my process cost is 1,80,000 and my inputs are 10,000 units. Now, let's take the first situation. when there is no normal loss and output is same, that is 10,000 units. So first situation, when there is no normal loss and the input is 10,000 and output is also 10,000. So what will be my cost per unit? 1,80,000 divided by 10,000 units. So this will be 18 rupees per unit. So when there is no normal loss, my input is 10,000 units. My output is also same 10,000 units. So my cost per unit will be what? 1,80,000 divided by 10,000. So that is rupees 18 per unit. Now let's take the second situation. Wherein the normal loss is given. Normal loss is 10% of inputs. The next question is given wherein when the normal loss is 10% of inputs. So my inputs are how much? 10,000. My normal loss is how much? 10% of 10,000, that is 1,000. So my output is what? 9,000. Now, what will be my cost per unit? One lakh 80,000 is my process cost divided by 9,000 units is my output. So rupees 20 per unit. Now, very important, guys, when there was no normal loss, my cost per unit was 18. But due to this normal loss of 1,000 units, my product cost is inflated by 2 rupees. So now my new cost per unit is what? 20 rupees. So it means what? The proportionate cost of these 1,000 units. ये जो 1,000 units है, इसका proportionate cost कितना है? 18,000 rupees. The proportionate cost of these 1,000 units is absorbed by balance 9,000 units. ये जो 1,000 units का जो proportionate cost है उसको कौन bear कर रहा है अब? Remaining 9,000 units. I hope this part is clear to all. I hope this part is clear to all that the proportionate cost of 1,000 units, ये जो 1,000 units है इसका जो proportionate cost है, कितना proportionate cost है? 18,000 rupees. अब ये 18,000 कौन bear कर रहा है? See, ये जो 1,000 units है इसका proportionate cost कितना है? 18,000 units. अब ये bear कौन कर रहा है? Remaining 9,000 units. So कितना rupees? 2 rupees per unit जो है कौन bear कर रहा है? Remaining 9,000 units. That's why ये जो 18 rupees है इससे cost कितना हो गया? अब 20 rupees हो गया. So it means what? I repeat again, the normal loss is absorbed by balance units. That is the cost of normal loss. ये जो normal loss का जो proportionate cost है, वो कौन absorb कर रहा है? Balance good units or balance units. I hope this part is clear to all. There is no concept of normal gain, Meenu. There is no concept of normal gain. Let's take one more situation. Normal loss is 10% of units. Sorry, normal loss is 10% of inputs and scrap value realized on sale of normal loss is rupees 4.5 per unit. My normal loss is 10% of input, and scrap value realized on sale of normal loss is how much? 4.5 rupees per unit. So, very simple, guys. My total process cost is 1,80,000. Now, scrap value realized on sale of normal, वो जो 1,000 potatoes damage हुए थे, they can be sold in the market at the rate 4 rupees 50 paisa per kg, or 1,000 kgs potatoes can be sold in the market at the rate 4.5 per kgs. So, how much will be my net process cost? 1,80,000 was the total cost. Of this, we realized 4,500. Now, this cost is to be absorbed by remaining 9,000 units, that is 10,000 minus 1,000. So, my cost per unit will be how much? 19 rupees 50 paisa. I hope this part is clear to all. Many students raise that what to do with the scrap value. I hope this part is clear. Very good, Jaya. So we can say there is a formula that is given in the study material, that is, due to space constant, I'm writing it here. That is cost of good units is basically the process cost minus scrap value of normal loss divided by inputs minus normal loss. So this is the formula that is given in the study material. That is my process cost minus the scrap value of normal loss divided by inputs minus the normal loss in units. I hope normal loss is clear to all now. Anyone having any doubts or queries related to normal loss? I'm not getting, Minu, what you're saying. So anyone having any doubts or queries, what is normal loss? So normal loss, that is bound to happen. So if there is no normal loss, straight away 180 divided by 10,000. If the normal loss is 10% of input, it means my output will be 9,000. So my cost per unit will be inflated because the cost of these 1,000 units are to be borne or absorbed by remaining 9,000 units. So 1,80,000 will be absorbed by 9,000 units. So the new cost per unit will be rupees 20. Now, third situation, if normal loss is 10% of input and scrap value realized is 4 rupees 50 paisa. So amount realized on sale of scrap will be deducted from the process cost, and accordingly we will get the final cost per unit, that is 1,80,000 minus the scrap value realized divided by my output. So 10,000 minus 1,000, so 19.5. So there is a formula that is given in the study material, that is cost of good unit. How come it will be derived? Process cost minus scrap value divided by inputs minus normal loss. So this is all what about normal loss. Anyone having any doubts or queries? Again, this 4,500 proportionate is helping you to again, manage the cost, Meenu. Anyone else? Thank you so much, Mustafa. I request you guys to copy this explanation. This is point number one. This is point number two. This is point number three. And when talking about the final formula, this is the final formula. So please copy the explanation, giving you 2 to 3 minutes time to copy everything. Don't take the screenshot for the explanation. Do copy it, because what you will write, you will remember. Apart from this, very important, guys, very important, do write your explanation in your language also, that this is, I mean, do write the comments in your language also, that what you have understood from this concept, because every time it's practically not possible for you to check the recorded session. So whatever you have understood relating to a particular concept, prepare your notes and write the explanation in your language. I request you guys to please download the material what I have provided. I'll be discussing a question from my material, a very basic question on normal laws. As of now, sharing the screen for your reference. So material, it is 1000 units at the rate rupees 100. 1 lakh rupees. Labor, it is 1,50,000. Other expenses are 50,000. Scrap value realized is 12,000. And normal loss is 10% of input. You are required to prepare process account and calculate the cost of good units transferred. So let's start with this question. Those who have not downloaded, I request you to take the screenshot. So let's start with process account. So units, amount. So material, it is 1000 units at the rate 100. Labor, it is 1,50,000. Other expenses are 50,000. Scrap value realized on sale of normal loss, and normal loss is 10% of input. So by normal loss is 10%, so this will be 100. And by units that are transferred to the next process is how much? 900. And the scrap value that is realized on sale of normal loss is 12,000. So this will be 3 lakh. When talking about the cost of good units, this will be 3 lakh minus 12,000 divided by 1,000 minus 100. So this is how we have to prepare process account if normal loss is given in the question. Further, if you want to prepare normal loss account, so this will be two process first, 100 units and 12,000. And by bank, that is the amount realized on the sale of these 100 units is 12,000. So this is how normal loss account is to be prepared. Very good, everyone. So anyone having any doubts or queries? We are done with the normal loss. Anyone with any doubts or queries? So fine, we are done with normal loss. How to deal with normal loss in process account, that is also I have discussed in detail. So fine, let's take a break of 15 minutes. I'll be back after 15 minutes. After this, we'll be discussing abnormal gain and abnormal loss. So let's take a break of 15 minutes. Admin sir? Yes. Welcome back, my friends. So, we are done with normal loss. So, let's start with the next part, that is abnormal loss. Now, when talking about abnormal loss, the loss in excess of predetermined loss is what we call as abnormal loss. What is abnormal loss? Loss in excess of predetermined loss when talking about this term predetermined loss, basically this is what? So the loss in excess of normal loss is what we call as abnormal loss. So I repeat again, we are starting with abnormal loss. What is abnormal loss? The loss in excess of predetermined loss is what we call as abnormal loss. When talking about predetermined loss, basically this is what my normal loss. So the loss in excess of normal loss is what we call as abnormal loss. Very important, it occurs. ये क्यों होता है? Due to bad plant design, or due to abnormal reasons, or due to carelessness of workers. It occurs due to bad plant design or carelessness of workers and or So ये क्यों होता है? Either due to carelessness of worker or bad plant design or due to abnormal reasons, maybe floods or electricity failure or short circuit or loss by fire, whatever it is. So it can be avoided. जैसे normal loss हम लोग avoid नहीं कर सकते थे, but when talking about abnormal loss, yes, it can be avoided if suitable measures are taken care of. It cannot be predicted by management in advance. Management abnormal loss predict नहीं कर सकता in advance. So loss in excess of predetermined loss is abnormal loss. Occurs due to bad plant design, carelessness of workers, or abnormal reasons. Can be avoided if suitable measures are taken. Cannot be predicted in advance. Let me discuss this with the help of an example wherein, let's say, I'm the manufacturer of potato chips from potatoes. I do procure these potatoes directly from farm. Now, let's say during the course of transit, one of the vehicle met accident. During the course of transit, one of the vehicle met accident, and let's say 35 tons of potatoes were completely damaged. So these loss of 35 tons is what my abnormal loss. It cannot be predicted. Accident कोई predict नहीं कर सकता. It cannot be predicted. It can be avoided if the driver was more careful. So when talking about abnormal loss, it is in excess of normal loss. It can be avoided if suitable measures are taken. So the loss of 35 tons can be avoided if the driver would have, driven the vehicle carefully. So this is all what about abnormal loss. When talking about the treatment of abnormal loss, the value of abnormal loss will be equal to the value of good units. In my language, we can say the product cost will not be inflated because of abnormal loss. Product cost will not be inflated because of abnormal loss. It is to be shown in the credit side of process account and thereafter transferred to costing P&L. So value of abnormal loss will be equal to the value of good units. Product cost will not be inflated because of abnormal loss. It is to be shown in the credit side of process account and thereafter transferred to costing P&L. I request you guys to copy your explanation. In the meanwhile, those who have any doubts or queries relating to abnormal loss, you guys can post. I'll be discussing again an example of abnormal loss. Then we'll discuss one question. So those who have any doubts or queries, any conceptual queries or query relating to the explanation what I have given, you guys can please post. So giving you 2 minutes time to copy everything. Jaya, I'll be discussing this with the help of an example. Don't worry. I'll be discussing this with the help of an example, Shamli. Don't worry. Let's discuss this concept with the help of an example. Let's say my process cost is 1,80,000. My inputs were 10,000 units. My normal loss is at the rate of 10% of inputs. My output is, let's say, 8,600 units. This is the data given in the question, wherein the process cost is 1,80,000. My inputs are 10,000. My normal loss is 10% of inputs. Further, scrap value is also given. Now, very important. As I said, the product cost will not be inflated because of abnormal loss. So, my inputs were how much? 10,000 units. My normal loss was how much? 1,000. So, I was expecting an output. Of 9,000 units. However, I was expecting an output of 9,000 units. However, my actual output was how much? 8,600 units. My actual output is how much? 8,600 units. So therefore, this additional loss of 400 units is what? My abnormal loss. This additional loss of 400 units is what? My abnormal. Now we need to calculate the value of these two. So see, as I said, the product cost will remain unchanged because of abnormal loss. The value of abnormal loss will be equal to the value of good units, and it is to be shown in the credit side of process account and thereafter transferred to costing P&L. So what was my, let's calculate the cost per unit, or we can say cost of good units. My process cost is how much? 1,80,000. As I said, there will be a no change in product cost because of abnormal loss. So, what is the amount realized on sale of normal loss? 1,000 units, and the amount realized is 4.5 divided by my input is 10,000 minus my normal loss is 1,000. हम लोग इधर 1,400 डिडक्ट नहीं करेंगे because product cost will not be inflated because of abnormal loss. It will be straight away 10,000 minus 1,000. So this will be 9,000. So this will be, I think, 18 rupees only. Sorry, 19.5. So this is what 19.5 is what the cost of good units. See, if there is abnormal loss or not. Abnormal loss question में है या नहीं है, इससे product cost में कोई भी change नहीं होगा. There will be no change in product cost, be it abnormal loss is there or not. So 19.5 rupees per unit will be my product cost. So value of actual output will be how much? 8,600 into 19.5, and value of abnormal loss will be what? 400 into 19. So this is how the net cost will be distributed, wherein, again, as I said, the value of abnormal loss will be equal to the value of good units. There will be no change in product cost. abnormal loss है या नहीं है, प्रोडक्ट कॉस्ट में चेंज नहीं होगा. जो भी प्रोपोर्शनेट अमाउंट है abnormal loss का, वो एज इट इज सीधा का सीधा कॉस्टिंग P&L में चला जाएगा. So this is the way we have to deal with abnormal loss. Admin sir, please send the link of the WhatsApp group. See, either there will be a abnormal loss or abnormal gain. एक क्वेश्चन में abnormal loss या abnormal gain दोनों practically possible ही नहीं है, Mr. Arun. So it's practically not possible that there will be an abnormal loss also and abnormal gain in a question. So I hope this part is clear to all. So the cost per unit will remain unchanged. Be it any abnormal loss is there or abnormal gain is there, the cost per unit will remain unchanged. The point is, जो भी value है, that will be transferred to the costing P&L. So yes, Shamli, I hope this part is clear to you now. There will be no change in, as I said, that the product cost will not be inflated or reduced because of abnormal loss or abnormal gain. Yes, Mustafa, I hope this part is clear. If the loss exceeds the normal loss, by default, it is abnormal loss, Pranav. Anyone else with any doubts or any conceptual queries? I'm just focusing on the concepts that once we will start the full-fledged question, you'll be able to solve it very easily. So the point is, I'm just taking a bit of time on the concept. The purpose is that once you are thorough with the concepts, you can solve any question with ease. See, Meenu, the total cost is 175,500 after adjusting the scrap value. See, ultimately, we have to distribute this amount 180 minus 45,500. That is 175,500 need to be distributed among two. That is, first one is the output, and second one is the abnormal loss. Because we can't change the cost of product because of abnormal loss. Pranav, the product cost will remain unchanged because of abnormal loss. So what to do with the proportionate value of abnormal loss? So that's why it will be transferred to costing P&L. Yes, most of Hina, most of the chapters. Don't worry, it's very easy. The point is you have to be patient. So with patience, you can deal with any questions of cost accounting. So over a period of time, I'll be discussing variety of questions, focusing more on the concepts. So I'll be focusing more on the concept. Once you are thorough with the concept, you can solve any question with ease. So I request you guys to copy this explanation, please. So 7,800 is to be transferred to costing P&L. Yes, Meenu. So let's start with one question. The question is there in the study material also and in my notes also. So let's start with this question. A product passes through two processes, process first and process second. Material issued to process first, it is 5,000 units at the rate 8. Wages, it is 30,000. Manufacturing overheads are 27,000. Normal loss is anticipated as 5% of inputs. 4,550 units of output were produced and transferred out from process first. So the process output of the process is given. Scrap value is also given. You are required to prepare process first account, value of abnormal loss and abnormal gain account, and units transferred to the next process. A very easy question. So let's start how to deal with abnormal loss in process account. So let's prepare. So two material, how much it is? It is 5,000 units and the total value is 40,000. Two wages, it is 30,000. And two manufacturing overheads are 27,000. By normal loss, is how much? 5% of input. So this will be 250. And the scrap value is how much? Rupees 2 per unit. So 250 into 2, this will be 500. By output that is to be transferred to the next process, it is also given, that is 4550. So 5,000. See, my inputs were how much? 5,000. My normal loss was how much? 250. So I was expecting an output of how much? No need to write this separately. I'm just explaining you because it's the first question. So I was expecting an output of 4750. But my actual output is how much? 4550. So how much less than my expected output? 200 units. So that is what my abnormal loss. So my abnormal loss is how much? Now, ultimately, we have to calculate the value of these two. Ultimately, we have to calculate the value of these two. So very simple. When talking about calculation of cost per unit, my total cost is how much? 97,000. My scrap value is 500 on sale of normal loss. It means my net cost is 96,500 divided by my expected output, that is 5,000 minus 250. So this will be 20.316. So this will be 92,437. And this will be 4063. So ultimately, we are doing nothing. Ultimately, this 97,000 minus 500, that is 96,500, is distributed among 200 and 4550. That's it. So ultimately, the cost of 96,500, that is the net cost, that is 97 minus 500, 96,500 is distributed among 200 units and 4550 units. So this is what the treatment of abnormal loss. Now let's prepare abnormal loss account also. Two hundred units, 4063. Now, very important, guys. See, the scrap value is given on sale of normal loss. So we will assume that the entire 4063 is not the loss. We will assume that these 200 units are also sold in the market just like normal loss. So, just like normal loss, we will assume these 200 units are also sold in the market at the rate 2 rupees. That is 400. I'll write also, and balance amount is to be transferred to costing P&L as loss. So this will be 3663. I'm writing this also. We will assume that just like the units of normal loss these abnormal loss units are also sold in market. No need to write all this explanation. This is just for your understanding this part and this part. So we will assume that just like normal loss units are sold in the market, These 200 units are also sold in the market at the rate rupees 2 per unit. So 400 is the amount realized. Our total loss was 4063. Of this, we are recovering rupees 400. So my net loss 3663 is to be transferred to costing P&L. So this is all what about abnormal loss. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post. I request you guys to copy this explanation. Many students were like having doubts and queries that how to deal with abnormal loss. So we are done with abnormal loss. Anyone having any doubts or queries? Waiting for your queries now. Yes, waiting for your queries now. This 4550 is given in the question. Meenu, read the question carefully. Uh, you can write a mail, Hina, cma-inter@icai.in, addressing my name. I'll guide you. I can guide you how to prepare, but as such, I have no knowledge of the subject, so don't want to comment on it. Yes, Mustafa, see, by bank 200 units and the amount is rupees 4 and balance 3663 will go to costing P&L. CMA-inter@icai.in. So 92,437 is basically 20.3158 is the amount into 4550. And 4063, we can say it's the balancing figure also, or alternatively, you can say 200 into 20.3158. It can be balancing figure also, but better do calculate it. Anyone else? This 400 is what? 200 into 2. The scrap value realized on sale of normal loss. Minu. I'll speak to Ajit sir. Are you there? Ajit
यस
sir?
सर यस सर
अजीत सर, कुछ स्टूडेंट्स ना मेल कर रहे हैं cma-inter@icai.in एड्रेसिंग माय नेम. सो प्लीज आप मुझे वो मेल फॉरवर्ड कर देंगे.
किस चीज का?
स्टूडेंट्स की कुछ क्वेरीज आ रही है. एक मुस्तफा है स्टूडेंट,
नहीं तो
उनकी
वो
कोई.
मयंक जी शेयर करेंगे सर, हमारे पास अभी नहीं आई है।
अच्छा, तो मयंक सर को
क्वेरी
बोलिए
तो सर
ना.
चैट में भी आ सकती है ना?
नहीं 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 नहीं, ये क्वेरीज नहीं. अगर कोई पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चंस के रिलेटेड क्वेरीज है तो हम लोगों का पोर्टल है ना, cma-inter@icai.in.
यस
तो
सर।
कई बार स्टूडेंट्स ना मेल करते हैं, और मुझे पहले भी स्टूडेंट्स का क्वेरी आया है, तो वो मुझे फॉरवर्ड होता था. तो आप एक बार मयंक सर को
तो वो
बोलेंगे
मयंक
तो.
जी को मैं रिमाइंड करा दूंगा एक बार।
ICAI.in, कुलदीप, इट इज ICAI.in. आप एक बार मयंक जी को रिमाइंड कर दीजिए ना प्लीज.
श्योर सर।
ओके. So don't worry, Mustafa. Mostly I'll get this your mail in a day or two. Don't worry. Anyone else? I hope everyone is thorough with the concept of abnormal loss. Yes, Mustafa. Anyone having any doubts? Yes, Minu. Anyone having any conceptual queries, guys? I'm done with abnormal loss. In every question, you will find the point abnormal loss. So very simple, guys. All the cost debit side, normal loss, output. Abnormal loss will be the balancing figure. There will be no change in product cost. This is my product cost due to abnormal loss. This is the only way to solve the question, Kuldeep. This amount is the balancing figure 4063 minus 400. This is how I got 3663. So now let's start with the next point, that is abnormal gain. When talking about abnormal gain, it means when actual production exceeds expected production, it is abnormal gain. हमने expectation किया था 4,500 units output का, whereas my actual output was 4,700, 200 extra. So that is what we call as abnormal gain. When actual production exceeds, when actual output exceeds expected output, it is abnormal. In our language, we can also say that it is a saving in normal loss. How come? I'll be discussing this with the help of an example. It's also a saving in it occurs due to wrong estimation also, and sometimes we can say due to efficiency by our staff or workers. So occurs due to wrong estimation of normal loss, due to wrong estimation of normal loss, or due to efficiency of again, when talking about the treatment part, it is to be shown in the debit side of process account and thereafter transferred to costing P&L. Further, the value of abnormal gain will also be equal to the value of good units. So value of so value of abnormal gain will be equal to the value of good units. No change in product cost due to abnormal gain. It is to be shown in debit side of process account and thereafter so this is all what about abnormal gain. I request you guys to copy this explanation. See, Pujita, sir, normal loss cannot be avoided. It is occurring by nature of material. One second. If in the petroleum industry, usually petrol is evaporated, considering it as normal, how do you sell it? Couldn't be sold, but the quantity of petrol is reduced. How do we treat it? So always remember this, that every time the scrap value of normal loss will not be given in the question. So it means that the normal loss has no scrap value. So in petroleum industry, if certain percentage is evaporated, it means the normal loss will be given, but there will be no scrap value. So the amount column will be empty. So the scrap value is not realized in every case. So the scrap value may vary from case to case. In some question, the scrap value will be more. In some practical situation, the scrap value will be decent. And in few cases, there will be no scrap value of normal loss. I hope, Pujita, this part is clear. So scrap value will not be applicable in all the cases. Yes, Pujita. I request you guys to copy this explanation. So if the scrap value is not given in the question, it means there is no scrap value, Meda. Let's take again a question. My input is 10,000. My normal loss at the rate of 10% of inputs. Now my output is 9,200 units. Scrap value is given at the rate 4.5 rupees per unit. Now herein, my inputs are 10,000. My normal loss is 1,000. My expected output is 9,000. However, my actual output is how much? 9,200. Therefore, we can say there is an abnormal gain of 200 units. I request you guys to copy this part, please. It's not a part of cost accounting, Arun. It's a part of financial accounts. So when talking about the cost of the product, it will be same. That is 1,80,000 minus 4,500. That is 4.5 into 1,000 divided by 10,000 minus 1,000. So this will be 19.5. So value, when talking about the value, the cost per unit will remain unchanged. So 19.5 into 9,200. 179,400 and 200. The output is shown on the credit side and abnormal gain is shown on the debit side. That's why I have deducted it. I'll be discussing this with the help of one question in the coming session. So this is all what about the concept of abnormal gain. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post. I hope you guys are finding this chapter interesting. It's not a format-based chapter. It requires a bit of concepts also. So I hope you guys are enjoying this chapter. Anyone else having any doubts or queries? Yes, the chapter is easy. The point is you should enjoy the chapter. The concepts are easy and simple. It's very practical. It's not format-based. What we have learned in cost sheet and activity-based costing. There are many more things we'll be discussing in the coming session. So I hope you guys are finding this chapter interesting. Yes, it's conceptual based chapter. In fact, it is applied in the practical life also. Make sure you are Ashlesha, you are regular in the class. Yes, Meenu. Thank you so much, Hina. So this is all what about abnormal gain. So homework for today is do revise the concepts what I have discussed in today's class. So in the coming session, I'll be discussing one question on abnormal gain, and thereafter we will discuss the full-fledged question wherein process first will be there, process second will be there. In process first, there will be abnormal loss. In process second, there will be abnormal gain. Ultimately, there is no rocket science. We have to sum up what we have discussed in today's class. So enough of discussion on abnormal loss, abnormal gain, normal loss, and the basic part. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post, because when talking about the basic concepts, I am done with the basic concept. Because if you're not thorough with this part, then you won't be able to solve the questions further. So those who are finding any sort of difficulty, check the recorded session. If you have any doubts, you can post your queries. I think I have tried my best to cover all the concepts in detail. So those who are finding any sort of difficulty, do check the recorded session again, and make sure day after tomorrow in the coming session, come prepared. Don't come with blank faces that how come this, that, because I'll be using all these concepts to solve the questions further. So thank you so much, guys, for your time. 1 second, let me check. There are a few points. So thank you so much, guys, for your time and patience and for active participation in the session. As I repeat again, do revise what I have discussed in today's class. In the coming 2 sessions, I'll be covering all the concepts. We'll be discussing few questions also. So till then, take care of yourself. See you day after tomorrow. Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Thank you. Everything was